guys, and welcome to episode 2 of our Lost and Found series. In this series, we're diving into what it means to be lost. More specifically, what it means to be spiritually lost and how we can seek to be found. Now, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever thought of the topic of value? What you value, how you value it, and why it matters? Because I think it's important. I think it's something that we should be looking at. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever given something away, there's a reason for it, right? We've all given something away or thrown it away, but a lot of times we give it away like clothes or shoes or furniture or silverware, whatever it might be. And sometimes we might give it away to the Salvation Army, to Goodwill, for somebody else to use. And then somebody else might come into that Goodwill, might come into that Salvation Army, and the thing that you've given away, the thing that is no longer valuable to you, is extremely valuable to them. You see, value is all based on perspective. Something you might deem not worth having could be somebody's favorite thing. I remember when I was in college, I went to Salvation Army and I found these pair of Levi jeans, and they were my favorite jeans. My favorite jeans for 4 years until they were too ripped and I had to throw them away. But I got those because somebody else decided they weren't valuable enough for them to keep. Value is a perspective we carry. We deem in ourselves what is valuable and what is not. But we have to be careful with that, right? Because I think when we don't hold ourselves in check and we don't understand the importance of value and what we place in it, we can hurt ourselves, we can hurt others. Because I think while we may dictate what the value is of things that we own and whether or not we give them away, we are constantly dictating the value of ourselves and of others. We dictate our values based on things that might not be as important, right? You see, I often have to keep myself in check because I find myself trying to determine my value based on my possessions, based on my abilities, based on my characteristics, and I'm sure you do it too. We determine whether or not we are good enough by the clothes we have, by the things we own, by the technology we possess. Because we think it makes us look more important, because it makes us look more admirable or more amazing in social eyes or the society's eye. Or we think we're more valuable if we're good at sports, or we're capable of doing art, or we can do things that are cool. We're more valuable. We bring more to the table. Or we think we're more valuable by our characteristics, by our intelligence, by our humor, by our looks. We determine our value by fleeting things. We determine our value by things that really actually don't determine our value. These are things that the world has told us truly matter, and our value is dictated by things that sometimes are out of our control. Now, I think our possessions and our abilities and our characteristics are things that not to be used to determine whether or not we are good or bad, or whether or not that we are better than or less than. These are things to just appreciate, to enjoy. But we rob ourselves of enjoying the sports we like to play or the art we love to do. We rob ourselves of our joy in sharing humor, or the intelligence or in the joy we have in learning. Or we rob ourselves of enjoying the possessions we have because we feel like we always have to have more because we've placed the wrong value in them. We use them to determine how valuable we are, but in truth, all those things are just blessings. Those are things that can just add joy to our life, but if we use them to determine our joy, we'll never be happy. And I think that's how we become lost. You guys, I think we're so lost, each and every one of us. And we can have good days and bad days on where our value comes from. Does our value come from the things that we cannot control, from earthly things, or does our value come from God? And in this series, we are diving into the chapter Luke 15, and we are learning about the parables that Jesus shared because he teaches us important ways that we can be lost, but important ways that we can then be found. And what you need to understand is Jesus was telling these parables to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees, why they needed to hear these parables is because they had gotten so lost in religious law that they lost sight of God. You see, the Pharisees had become so concerned with living out the religious laws and being perfect and making themselves more righteous that they could then turn to others, those who weren't living the Jewish faith, and condemn them as sinners, tell them they were less than, tell them they were less worthy. They deemed people unable to be interacted with, people that weren't even worthy of being acknowledged as human because they did not meet the same level of value as them. But Jesus wanted to remind them that was wrong. That's not who God is. And so last week we learned about the parable of the lost sheep, but this week I want us to look at the parable of the lost coin. And it's in Luke 15, verses 8 through 10. And here's what it says. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. You see, why this story matters and what Jesus is trying to remind the Pharisees and ultimately remind us is, in this story, God is the woman. God is the woman, and he notices when one coin is missing. And when you hear that the woman has 10 coins, you can think that the losing of one isn't that much. It doesn't matter, but it matters to the woman. This one coin is valuable enough for her to tear apart her whole house in search of it. This coin is valuable to her. And it's the same with God and us. You see, God notices when we are gone, and he thinks that we are valuable enough for him to search for us high and low and wait for us to return to him. God deems us valuable, and we have to remember that. But then what's also so important and why he's telling this story is that once the coin is found, the woman tells her friends and her neighbors, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." And if we are looking at this story like God is the woman, then that's God telling us to rejoice with him when someone has returned. Rejoice with him when someone who has lost has been found. And the reason Jesus is sharing this story is because the Pharisees lost sight of that. They lost sight of how God calls us to celebrate. God calls us to rejoice. God calls us to value those we may not feel like valuing. Value those who may not value what we think is important, because they are valuable to God. Because you see, I think the Pharisees got so consumed with earthly things like these religious laws. But yes, these laws were given by God to help them have better, healthier, happier lives. But when they got consumed by completing these laws and determining their value and how they completed these laws, they lost sight of the fact that God already called them valuable. And in that, they lost sight of the fact that God calls everybody valuable. They lost sight of a verse I want to share. It's in Psalm 103, verses 8 through 13. And I think it's important for us to listen. It says this: "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. He will not always accuse, nor will he harbor his anger forever. He does not treat us as our sins deserve or repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him." You see, the Pharisees were judgmental. The Pharisees were self-righteous, and that's because they placed their value in the wrong things. They placed their value in how they could build themselves up in the religious law, that they lost sight of the fact that they were already valuable in God's eyes, and they lost the ability to value others. You see, that coin the woman was looking for has two sides. And one side of that coin tells us that we are valuable, and then the other side tells us that those we don't want to value are valuable too. And so I really want to challenge you guys today, be wondering, how are you lost right now? Are you somebody who's lost and needs to find God? Somebody who hasn't known what it means to put your value in Him and to find your value in who He says you are? Are you someone who has had questions and just doesn't know what that looks like, but you want to come and you want Him to find you? You want to be the coin that we rejoice about. And you do that by sharing your questions, sharing your doubts, and understanding that God has been searching high and low for you. Are you the coin that God has been looking for? The one that He would rejoice in finding? Or are you the side of the coin where you tell yourself you're worthless? You tell yourself that you're not valuable, that you don't measure up, that you're not good enough to God or to others? How can you be challenging yourself or encouraging yourself to change that view? To trust in the fact that you matter, not just to God, but other people as well. How can you start to change that language inside your head and trust the fact that you are worthy of love, you are worthy of encouragement, you are worthy of opportunity, you are worthy of so much more than you're allowing yourself to experience? How do you change that? Or are you the side of the coin where you have a hard time valuing those you disagree with, valuing those you dislike, valuing those you don't understand? It could be one person, it could be an entire group of people, but is there somebody, is there a group of people, is there something you're not valuing that you should? Are you looking at them and seeing your differences, or are you looking at them and understanding how deeply loved they are by God and how loved they should still be by you? How can you challenge yourself to still place that value on people you can't understand? People that it's hard to reconcile with, hard to connect with. How do you still value them? I want you to challenge yourself to start asking that question. How can I better be showing value to people I don't like? People I actually shouldn't, just don't care about, but should. How we value ourselves and how we value others should deeply reflect how much we value God and our understanding of how much He values us. So guys, where are you lost today? And I want you to head into small group. Head into small group and talk about it. So stay tuned for announcements and then enjoy small group. All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to Impact News with me and Chip. What?
All right.
What? Oh my goodness, guys. Well, we just have a quick announcement for you today. It's only one announcement, and I'm pretty sure you can probably guess what it is, but I'm going to have Chip say it anyways. What is it?
Well, as is my custom, I'm going to warn you that we are continuing with our Bible study on Wednesday, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Romans, continuation of that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Just make sure you get there. We are opening up from COVID and hope to see you guys. Bring your Bible, bring your mask, and bring your spirit.
Yes. And yes, guys, we'll be continuing Romans. That's all we have for you this week. Now, if you're online and don't know that we are also reopening and having Impact in person as well, you can come next week if you would like, but you need to make sure you register beforehand. And you can do that at wslathome.org at the in-person sign-up page. All right, guys. What? All right. Enjoy your small groups and have a great day. This has been Ronnie.
And Chip. Signing off.
With announcements. All right, guys. Bye.